to record. There you go. Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so why don't we do a call to order? Why don't we go around and say who's on the call so Linda can take notes. Jonathan, do you want to start?
Yeah, Jonathan Marr here.
Okay. Amy?
Amy Hawansky.
Okay. Andrea? I'm just looking at the pictures here.
Andrea Worthington.
And Chris?
Chris Zimmerman.
And then we've got Laura Robinson and Linda. And is that it? That's all I see on our.
Yeah.
That's all I see. We might have more people join. I'll announce them if they do.
Okay. So the first order of business is the approval of the minutes from January. Did everyone get a chance to take a look at them?
Yes, I have some little typo corrections.
Okay, why don't you go ahead, Amy, and then I had one correction also.
Okay. Page 3, line item 81. Ms. Robertson noted that tree planting is number 4. I think it should read on the 2020 list.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Next line 82. We can also add a subcategory that would manage resident requests, I think it's plural, for street trees better. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong there.
That makes sense.
Line 86, from the line before, Ms. Robertson stated that she only knew of one restriction, and that was the tree council was not supposed to order trees from Northern. I think it might help to just clarify that statement. So it's that, correct me if I'm wrong, it's that we, as tree council members, don't have the authority, and we've made the agreement that we're not the ones ordering trees from any certain specific nursery, that it's the highway department that is going to order the trees. We can talk to the highway department and make suggestions, but we aren't calling up a nursery and saying we want 5 of these and 3 of these. Mm-hmm. So maybe if we say something along the lines of that she only knew of one restriction, and that was the tree council members were not supposed to order trees from any nurseries.
But would work with the highway department in making those selections.
Yeah, and did I interpret that correctly, Laura?
Yeah,
from
that's
our
correct.
agreement? Okay. Okay, then
Yeah, so we'll just add the highway department would do that.
Yeah, and I don't think that we have to specify Northern. I think it's supposed to be any.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Right.
Okay. Then on line 93 and the line before 92, if a number of residents on 2 adjoining streets want trees, the tree council can host a project like Ray and Cornelia streets. And I think just a little bit of clarification, like the one we did on Ray and Cornelia streets, or the project we installed, something like that.
Or like the plantings at.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Line 96 and 95. If a tree loses multiple trees from storm damage or other reasons, the council can help choose alternate tree species that might thrive better in the environment of that street. And I don't think it was so much that they would thrive better. It's just that we are helping to choose good trees based on all of our protocols, the site conditions. I think it's just that we will help choose alternate tree species that might thrive in the environment of that street.
Okay.
Because I don't think it's that we're trying to one up anybody, or I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A clarification on line 97. Ms. Hawansky wanted to include the Blatnick Park rehab to the list of goals, and I don't think we're rehabbing the whole park. So maybe we say Blatnick Park sign. Yeah.
Yep.
Line 101 and 100. We have talked about planting in other neighborhoods, but don't have one defined enough to be a yearly goal. And I thought it was going to be a yearly goal. I thought that every year we were going to try to do a street tree planting neighborhood type project. So I thought we specifically had said it was a yearly goal.
It is a yearly goal. I think that was meant to say we don't have a neighborhood chosen to define the neighborhood as a yearly goal. But
Maybe,
yeah, we should definitely clarify that sentence.
yeah, maybe we say, but we don't have one defined yet for 2021.
Yeah, but don't have like a location picked out for 2021.
Okay,
Right.
thank you. Thank you. There's a couple on the next page, page 4. Line 131, 132. Ms. Robertson stated she needs to review what needs to be done and schedule action items. This is for the street tree master plan. And then Ms. Hawansky stated she would be interested in helping. I think a bunch of other people also said that they would help during that time, so I don't want them to feel excluded on that. And line 140. So this is, I was going over what I'd like to continue with today, if you would all help me with your comments. She noted the current list is in the form of a spreadsheet, which has a lot of information. This is the list of recommended or preferred trees for the highway department and for the town of Niskayuna. Yet it has a lot of information, yet it also lacks a lot of information. For example, it lists 6 cultivars of maple trees, but there are hundreds of such trees. So I can't confirm if that was really 6 or if that was me just giving an example, pulling a number from my head. So maybe we say it lists several cultivars of maple trees, but there are hundreds of such ones.
Yep.
Line 158. Just a very small technicality. Ms. Robertson stated that they should create a blog article on the Tree Council website to explain maples. So technically, when we say the common name like maples, it's a small m. And this gets weird because part of the scientific name is capitalized, part of the scientific name is small, part of the scientific name is capitalized with single quotes. So there's this weird convention for how to do it. And technically, when we write the common name, we should be writing in small letters. However, a lot of time we use capital letters just to make it visually stand out on a page so that people understand we're talking about maple trees. I just wanted to clarify that for the future. And then on page 5, line 160, Ms. Hawansky concluded that the notebook for the highway department would be a spreadsheet with tabs listing flowering trees. I think it's going to be a binder, not just a spreadsheet. I think the theory is that we'll have this binder kind of like in with the plastic sleeves on the pages to kind of protect the pages. Thank you.
Is that for the highway people, or is that for going to houses and saying, here are the trees that we can plant?
I think both. So the one for the highway could be like this one that they keep in, their work area. And then if they need it, they can grab it and toss it in the truck, and it's kind of protected with the plastic sleeves. And then also if they or a developer needs to hold it for a minute and show people on the street, hey, homeowners, which tree would you like? It would also serve the same purpose.
Okay, good. That's great.
Okay. Amy, was that all you had?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Did anyone else have anything?
I had one other one.
Okay.
Applaud Amy. I can't see so many of them. Back on page 3, I'm trying to bring it up here. Well, it was line 108.
Okay.
They are interesting in.
Oh.
It should just be they are interested in.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. And anything else, Jonathan?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay. I had 2 comments. The first on page 2, line 74, where it says Carol finalized the Tree City certification again for 2020. I didn't really do much. Laura, you really did all that, and we mention it again on page where is it, page 4, line 137. Miss Carey filed the application. You filed the application. So I don't want to be taking credit for anything that I didn't really do.
Well, we could say we, but like you, I mean, you got the password and then you were constantly checking in with me to make sure that I was doing it, which is really helpful. So
Take the credit.
Sounds like a good team effort.
it was definitely a team effort.
Okay. Okay. It's, yeah, I just, Laura, you filled out the application, did most of the work. So, I just kept saying, has it gone in yet? That really wasn't
Yeah,
too
but I
hard.
listened to
Important.
Well, and you also got us access, remember?
Yeah. But again, I think that wasn't the hard part of filling out the whole application, but maybe we can just say that we, Carol and the council, or
Okay.
something. So, okay. Any other comments on our, meeting minutes?
Looks like we did a lot.
So,
Yeah, that was really thorough. Thanks, guys.
yeah.
You're going to have
So,
stitches.
does somebody want to make a motion then to approve the January minutes?
I can
Okay, it
prove.
looks like
I will
Andrea
make a
is
motion.
raising her hand to make a motion. Anyone want to second it?
Amy will.
Okay, all in favor, say
Aye.
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 Okay, well. So next is privilege of the floor. I don't think we have anyone on, do we, Laura?
No, and I didn't receive any requests either.
Okay, so Laura, do we have two new members? It sounded like, that are going to be on the tree council?
The young
Yes.
women?
No,
No. So Faith Foley is the one that we selected, and I will be reaching out to her. No other council selected her, although she was second, I think, for Climate Smart Communities, or she was also nominated. But it ended up working out that nobody nominated the same one. So,
Great.
so I'm gonna do that outreach. We talked about it. Economic Development Committee reviewed all the names on Friday, and I will be reaching out to those guys. They accepted all the nominations. The two new tree council is because we lost Steve and
Melissa.
Melissa.
yeah.
And Melissa, yeah.
So
We lost 3.
so you guys actually know Daryl. He's come to our tree council meetings a couple times.
I know him.
Yeah, and so he requested to be on tree council.
Great.
And the other lady's name is Amy Lamina, I think. And I reached out to them and asked, what subcommittees they would be interested in. Daryl said he was going to try and come to the meeting tonight, but I told him that, they're not formally appointed until March. And Amy said it was her birthday tonight, so we'll have to write that one down. But yeah, so I have their kind of choices for subcommittees, and I don't think there'll be any problem appointing them. So we'll have a full board at our next meeting, and we'll have our youth representative. So we should have all 9 plus our youth representative for our next meeting.
That would be great. That'll be good.
Very nice.
Okay, so it looks like for new business, we have our 2021 goals, which Laura, you attached to the packet. So do we have any comments or discussions on our 2021 goals?
I have a couple of typos just for if it's going to be a final piece now.
It is.
At the very bottom, ongoing responsibilities, item 3, address any private homeowner questions, I think plural, concerns, issues. Item 4, update master plant list. So I think if we're capitalizing master, we should capitalize plant and list. So it's a document, master plant list. And that's it.
And that's what we're calling it, is plant list, not tree list, right? Okay.
Is that can I clarify, is that what computer committee is doing as looking at all of the plants in Niskayuna, or is that the recommended list of plants that we're going to have for homeowners and developers?
Yeah, it has perennials and shrubs and stuff on it.
So that's the recommended list for. So I have a question then. I've been thinking about this. I sometimes am confused when we say our master list for Niskayuna, because when we say that, sometimes we mean all of those trees that we've surveyed. And then sometimes.
Sorry, that's our inventory.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're calling that our Niskayuna street tree inventory.
Mhm.
And then we're calling our recommended list our master tree list or master plant list.
Yeah, and then one of the things, it does guide developers, but it also has prohibited plants,
Yes.
which gives us a lot of leeway to have them not be planting burning bushes. And
Yes.
some of the other ones they still like. I'm trying to think of what the last one was that we saw that were like, really? You can't even buy those in New York anymore.
Oh, wow.
Barberry.
Do we want to call it plant or do we want to call it like tree/plant or tree/shrub? I mean, when I think of plant, I think of a lot.
How about woody plants?
What's that?
Woody plants. You know, so
Well,
we're not, you know.
I mean, because we're not really prohibiting certain plants. It's more trees and shrubs that we're prohibiting, right?
There are perennials that are prohibited on there.
There are. Okay.
Yeah, I can pull it up really quickly.
Yeah.
It's a
And-
good way to potentially distinguish the two, you could have it, be the, recommended tree or plant tree and plant planting list, or something like that.
Yeah, that would be clearer.
I think that's a little better, a little clearer, just because some people may not think about trees when you see the master plant list.
I agree.
Okay. And then we'd have the same prohibited tree and plant list.
Okay, that sounds
Okay.
good.
So as we progress today, then I have not used the exact same terminology. So in the drafts that I've sent you in your email, I will update that to the terminology that we just decided on.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Tree and list.
So are we all okay with our 2021 goals?
I updated them to everything that you guys talked about, and then I did make a couple of kind of minor, which you might have noticed, changes just when I was doing those other updates, which I think are hopefully consistent, like the street tree inventory. Instead of continuing to collect data in Fulcrum, it seems like we're really moving away from that, and we're trying to use the existing data that we have to leverage a grant to get that full inventory. So I did change that.
Mhm.
And might have been the only thing I changed that we didn't talk about.
Okay.
So my wicked question is, since we don't really know how long COVID's going to be with us, are we putting these goals down in a way that says, yes, we can get this done, or is this just aspirational?
That's a good question. That's a fair question.
Mhm.
I mean, I treat them as a bit of both. Like last
Me
year,
too.
we looked at the 2020 goals, and we took off the pilot program because we did do the pilot program, and we had something else that we had accomplished. So it's some of those things we do accomplish and tick off, and like we do have like the Blatnick Park sign, which hopefully we would accomplish and tick off. But like things like diversifying street tree species and public outreach, those are actually never going to change.
No, that's not going to change. I understand that.
Those are
understand that.
always going to be goals, right?
Yeah.
That we are
Yeah.
going to forward like forever.
But
and
I mean,
again, we can be
Like even
creative.
just the plantings we did on Cornelius and stuff is not a COVID activity. You know what I mean? When we all got together and we were all digging this stuff up and everything, it's so you have to. I'm just being like, you don't want to make goals and then think, oh, we're never going to do these things.
No, but I think a lot of them we can still do in spite of COVID.
Okay,
Like,
good.
adopt the definition of tree of value. Arbor Day, we figured out a way to do Arbor Day.
Yeah.
I think the majority of them we can figure
Get
out.
it done. Yeah, I think so.
And we
You
might be
know.
able to do a neighborhood planting. It would just have to be, it wouldn't maybe be as involved with like us doing the planting and having everybody come out like as a party. It might be more like us dropping off flyers, gathering the information, and then having the highway do it this year, which isn't as much fun, but those are mostly in the fall.
That's true.
Really hoping it'll be okay in the fall.
Yeah.
You might actually just take a quick look at it from the, I'm fine with everything that's there, but it is somewhat of a mix of things that, like, actions that we're going to take, and then it's mixed with like goals that we have that are ongoing.
Yeah.
So
It
there's a
is.
goal like,
Mhm.
which I think is a good goal. It's like, increase street tree diversity, but it's not necessarily an activity that we're undertaking, such as complete the street tree master plan. Like, that's an activity. We're trying to commit to that, to your point, Andrea, finish it this year. So like the difference between things we're going to do versus more broader goals.
Yeah. And a lot of this takes time, lots of time.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there's just some things we want to finish, like I really want to get the street tree master plan done this year. That's a big push.
Yeah,
That's
big push. That's
Yeah.
great.
And the Blatnick Park sign hopefully would be a nice planting that we could do.
Yes.
And trimming the tree request, I think that's doable this year. Supporting the highway department, I think, is kind of ongoing, but like if we're doing the master plan, hopefully we can dovetail that together. But like purchasing unique and special trees for parks, that's just kind of budget dependent and time dependent whenever we can do it. So that's not like a check off thing. So I see what you're saying. It is a mix. We could reorganize it if you want to. And then
Oh, it's good. I like the 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are what we want to do, what we do, and that's fine. So
I did have a comment in regards to the planting the unique trees. It might be helpful to come up with, in this year where we do have some time and planning, is to come up with, what kind of the goals of that would be, and potentially a design. Or I keep going back to the fact that the town does have, a plan for our parks, and that really should be integrated into the park plan, because you don't want to plant a tree where somebody else has envisioned there being a future facility. I don't know. I'm just
that's a really good. It's a really good point.
And included with that too is they will also be on the recommended tree list, because many of them can also be street trees.
Right. Yeah. So I'm just like more, I guess, the siting of the trees and what trees are chosen in relation to the goals of the particular facilities. You know what I mean? So some of the facilities, it's just more open space, so it's not as much of an issue. But then potentially some of the other facilities, they have active recreation. So how can, those trees potentially, benefit those activities, provide shade and stuff. So I don't know, just a way to integrate that with the park plan, which I think will be updated at some point.
Right. Now, I think that's a great point, Chris.
Yeah.
And I know Amy a while ago had said, like certain cities have certain characters, like Rochester and the Lilac, and are we thinking about that as a vision? Is there anything that, as Niskayuna, we want to be working towards versus just buying trees and figuring out a place to plant them? Is there like a kind of integrated vision that we have, which again I think would tie into the parks, etc., and what we're trying to do? So.
And the parks can be an arboretum. You can, if a person, if we want to put one of those special unique trees on a street, we could tell them, you can see what it'll look like at Jeff Blatnick at this point, or you can see what it would look like at, the whatever, the Lock 7 or something, whatever place we plant it, and then we're actually building kind of an arboretum of plants that some people might say,
a showcase example.
Yeah, I'd love to see this in my front yard.
That's a very good point. A lot of retail places do that, right? So they'll have their display garden. So, hey, here's this shrub, what it looks like when it's 5 years old. I know you're buying it this size right now, but here's what it's going to look like. That's a good point. And we can define that can be part of, maybe we can think about that and have that as part of our definition to answer Chris's request there. You know, what is our vision? How do we define that as part of our overall plan for the town?
Yeah.
Mhm. And Laura, I just had a quick clarification. Is it our responsibility for the Blatnick Park sign rehabilitation, or are we just responsible for the landscaping?
Just the landscaping, although we did show the highway department kind of where we wanted to put the sign, and they did agree that that was a good spot.
Okay. But as
so
far as the
we could
redesign of
order
the
and pay
sign,
for the sign, get it installed, and then work with us on landscaping around it.
Sounds great.
but we're not responsible for the redesign of the sign or paying for that or anything.
No, I did. I had a good meeting with Ray out there. I was really trying to use 2020 money to buy the sign because 2021 is so tight. But we weren't able to do that. But I still think that he recognized fully that that sign needs to be replaced. And so we talked about ways that we could do that. And yeah, I think, you know, I think Clark dug down into the files, and I showed you that picture. I found a picture of the old sign, and none of you were crazy, and it did have the rings on it. Like you said, they clearly just fell off.
Right.
So the original thought was like, we'll recreate that exact sign. But then he was thinking like maybe it would be better to kind of, because we have kind of a brand sign that we use for our parks, to incorporate all that information onto a brand sign that, you know, has a lot of longevity. Those were two ideas that we talked about. I'm fine with either of them and really left that in his court. But I'll probably follow up with him at the next highway committee meeting, probably, to just see if we can get that back on their radar.
Okay.
We also we also have to go out in the spring, you know, when all the ground is thawed, and straighten out those trees, because like I wasn't able to organize us getting out there before it did frost up. So there's still a little bit of work that we need to do in that park, and we can be coordinating with him on it.
With the
Okay.
elms, you mean?
Just a
Yeah.
quick
The
clarification
elms, yeah, the elms.
in regards again to the park. So all, you know, topics in regards to the parks are discussed at the highway department meetings, or is there a separate parks meeting? And so is there a, you know, head of parks or, you know, present at that meeting, or is it really just the highway department that, you know, oversees the management of parks and coordination of the land use at those facilities?
So it's kind of interesting because highway oversees maintenance and control of parks, right? So they're doing all the on the ground stuff for them. And they have their like parks maintenance department. Then you have like programs, which are the people who run everything town related that goes onto the parks and do the licensing and stuff. And those guys work together, but they are two separate departments. And then the only person who really oversees them is the town supervisor or the town board member that's in charge of the highway parks committee, highway and parks committee. So there isn't like a single person who's responsible. It is a little fractured as far as parks go, because it's sort of like, okay, what the people do is in one department, and you know what is on the ground is in another department. And the only person who really unifies them is like the town supervisor.
Thank you. Yeah, that was helpful. Just trying to get a better understanding of, you know, the programs and the facilities and people that use them, and then how they're maintained, and then who's the decision maker about that. So
yeah, and it's interesting too because they do try to communicate, but the decision maker for the people is community programs typically, and the decision maker for the fields is the highway. So it is, you know, but they do get along, which is helpful. There's not a complete disconnect, but there's definitely kind of a separation there, which is interesting.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, do we need to formally approve these goals?
I mean, if you guys are comfortable with us just making those minor changes that you mentioned, we certainly, if we want to adopt them tonight, that we don't have to bring it back to you. But if you want to see it one more time with those changes, we can also do that.
I think we're good with those changes. If we want to, I guess, make a motion that will adopt these 2021 goals.
I'll do that.
Okay,
I'll
Amy.
second.
Chris will second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Okay. So the next is the discussion items on these planning projects, Laura. Rivers Ledge is the first one.
Yeah, so I attached, you guys saw this before, and there's a lot of typos, and I think we were a little frustrated because it didn't have the number of plants that were being planted. And so they did make some changes. I still think that it needs some upgrades, and this is not the final. Like, I have some of my own comments related to the planning board, like specifically, I kicked off my computer. Darn it. So, like, specifically the building 12 is very close to the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail. And so we had said that that needs more landscaping than what would be typically around those buildings, because it needs to be shielded by a landscaping to the bike path. And they were like, well, we could put a fence up, but I think the planning board really wanted to see that just vegetative landscaping. And the other place, and we've looked at this before, that I think still needs even more landscaping is that border between Rivers Ledge and the single family home. Because again, I just got kicked off my computer, so I can't tell you the building number, but the one that's right next to that single family home is pretty close. And so we had them update it. You guys have looked at it before. And it has way more trees, but like what we talked about, like with the TEE, is maybe like some grasses, or when we were talking about that parking lot on Crescent, like we were talking about boxwoods or something that are going to catch the headlights, because obviously the trees are going to grow up and you're going to, cut the branches around them. And so they become effective screening to the windows, but they're not really effective screening to like the use of the yard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thanks, Linda. Building 8.
Which building?
Building 8.
Building 8.
It's way over on the right.
Can you have the ability to like circle it on your computer?
Or point
I
to
sound stupid. You can use the
she's
little.
pointing to it.
Linda, I got back on my computer here.
It's so tiny.
It's tiny.
I'm going to kick you off.
You can. I see 12. Yeah,
There's a lower right corner on the map.
9. Yeah.
My computer really is
7.
being, it's so funny. Okay, so this is building 8, and we did this screening here.
Okay.
This screening is all extra, because this is kind of like their backyard here. So they added in extra like spruce trees, I think, and this is all extra in here. But if you look at what that is, it's 4 number 10s, 3 number 20s. I'm not really sure those
Pens.
are those labeled. Anyway, they did add this in specifically when we were talking, but it is still. So what we had talked
20
about,
is Picea. And what was the other one? 10?
Yeah.
I don't
number
see it.
10s, a couple 10s. I think they're birches.
Picea.
What kind of birch?
Well, no, it looks like it's Picea.
They're all Pisces.
Yeah.
Colorado blue spruce and Norway spruce,
Well, those are the numbers. Okay.
10 and 20s.
Okay.
Colorado
Yeah.
blue.
Oh, yep, you're right. So it's
Yeah,
a combination of
Norway.
Norway and Colorado, which they have low branches. So maybe that is effective over there.
Mhm.
Those guys do typically. That's not like planting a maple or anything that gets trimmed up.
Mhm.
And this is just to make a barrier between the roads and
Yeah, so that may be more effective than I realized. I don't think that I had noticed the notations yet. But one of the things that we talked about here is like this corner in here, like it's tough because there's like a retaining wall and stuff. So I still actually want them to come back with ideas that we could review. But I did want you guys to take a look at the updated planting list that's spelled correctly, that has the right numbers, and see if you have any comments on it so far, knowing that it's still a work in progress.
Laura, can I ask a COVID-related question?
Sure.
What is the current protocol? When dealing with big blueprints, it's sometimes easier to see those in person. Would there be a chance for us to come in and see the exact layout at some point?
Yes, I think so. If I have to get permission from the supervisor really to let anybody who's not an employee in, but we do have protocols for them. Like you have to take your temperature and sign in for tracing, for contact tracing purposes and stuff like that. But I do think that if it's something really important and you guys wanted to come see, we could probably organize a visit. I'm hoping that we actually open up again soon, but I haven't gotten word on that yet. So
Laura, you and I walked
Thank
this a long time ago. Sorry to interrupt. So what is way out here? Way out, like, is that the sand dune that we were walking on? Way out in the, away from the farthest thing to the left.
from here,
Down here. Let's see if I can.
I can't see because I'm seeing my
Can you
screen.
see this?
Hold on.
We can't
It
see what
looks
you're
like
pointing to.
A big white area on the map.
Oh, up here, this guy.
This one right here.
We can't.
No,
You're
let me
pointing.
put it in and put it where. Oops, I don't know. Can't do it. Can I move your pin?
No.
It's this big thing that looks like an eye.
Oh,
That's-
this.
Yes.
That's a pond.
Oh, it's a pond.
Yeah, and the cool thing about this is it has a walking trail around it, which I think you guys are partially responsible for. Those cookie sheets.
You know, Laura, Andrea said that you walked the site. Maybe another option would be when the blueprint is more finalized, that we could do what we did yesterday and go out to the site and walk it and have the blueprint with us. And okay, this is where we're standing. This is this cluster of proposed trees. Do we think it's going to block enough? That might be a really good way for us to analyze what's being done.
Yeah, we actually can do that. And so we already told them the notation is that the landscaping isn't finalized, and that we would be working at the landscaping when the buildings get closer towards temporary CO, which is obviously timely because there's not much you can do with plants right now, which I'm thankful for because I love winter.
And Laura, the path, is that separate? That's owned separately from River's Ledge that we've been talking about putting the
Up here.
aqueduct blocks and stuff.
That's separate. Yes. So
Okay.
the town and the Canal Corps owns that, and we're still going to be reviewing plans for that as well. The last plans that we looked at that we liked, they're still like, again, the landscape, the final, like, landscaping, but the concept of it with, taking the trees down and moving the blocks and all that stuff that we looked at before, those engineered drawings that we looked at got forwarded to the Canal Corps, and we're waiting for a permit. So when that permit comes, we would be heavily involved, I think, when the construction goes, and they get the beds ready to go, and then we start planting. I think we'd be heavily involved in that. But we have to wait for the permit on that. So that is a separate set of drawings that we are also kind of like the lead agency on. But this one is, the last time we saw it, they had, I believe, burning bush, which we had them take out, and they added in some different. So I just wanted to, take a look at the planting list. I do think that they removed the ones that we didn't like, and they did put much better detail of what they're trying to plant out there to give us a better idea. So I think that it's in a better shape than it was before. And I do think we still have more work to do, and it is a really good idea to go out on the site when we get close. But I guess I'm asking, like, is there anything in the list or the size or anything with the updated information that is alarming to us, or can we work with that when we are going out and working with them?
Is rhododendron the last one on the list, or is there anything below that?
Oops, I believe that's the.
There's a
YDCA filamentosa Adam's needle.
Oh yeah,
Okay. They spelled that wrong, by the way. They need a U in there.
Oh yeah, they did too.
But I thought that walking area, when we walked through it, Laura, it was pretty treed. There were a lot of trees there when we were.
Yeah.
So are they going to remove trees that are okay and put in this garden? Or are they going to preserve trees that are there?
They're gonna. So the park is that separate set of drawings.
No, I meant the pathway by the river.
Yeah, the path, that's a separate set of drawings from this one. That's the one we looked at that maybe 4 or 5 meetings ago, with the tree removal plan.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
They're
That's what-
taking down, the Canal Corps doesn't approve of them taking down large healthy trees. They're
Okay,
taking down some trees that you and I still like, but you know, like the old willows that are like half falling down. There's a lot of dead ash trees down there. There's if they're leaning, their arborist went in and did an assessment. They do have to keep the healthy ones, even if they're in spots they don't really like. But
good.
It's it's got a lot of vines and buckthorn and honeysuckle, and it's got a lot of older like willow trees and things that are shedding very large branches, which to me I think is great. But like if you're trying to build a park, like
Yeah.
as much. So I mean I think you will see like quite a bit of vegetation removed during that process, but they are supposed to keep a decent amount of the large healthy trees.
Right. So,
All right.
Laura, could you go back to the plant list for a second, please?
Yeah.
You know that saying when you submit a resume, especially if you're submitting it for a position working with details and you have 25 errors on your resume, then the person isn't going to want to hire you to do detailed work. So item number 11 is spelled incorrectly. The species, it's Alnifolia, and Crataegus, what number is it? Number 19 is spelled incorrectly. So I think they need to go through one more time and do a real proofread. I may be being a stickler about that, but to my mind, if there's not the effort put in to actually get the plant list correct, then are they going to be putting in the effort to actually get the plants correct and the planting correct? And it's this thing like this, how many times do they go back, and it's and then line all the way at the bottom, the last one there with 32 of them, yucca is spelled incorrectly. So
That one down.
There may be some other ones in there. I didn't look at every
Yeah,
single
there
one.
are a couple other ones like the yucca 160. I think it's gold sword yucca, not gold sward yucca.
Yep, gold sword, correct.
Oh yeah. Okay,
Plus,
160.
the cultivar names are not double quotations; they're single quotations. So there's all these little things that make me kind of go,
What is
see a little more precision. And again, I acknowledge that could just be me being too anal retentive.
We're in charge of it. I think it should be right.
What's
Yeah,
the
otherwise,
third
what would
from
you
the
be
bottom?
at the landscape place? Yeah.
Laura, can we just take a quick, I guess one thing I was trying to get a better sense of, so if they're going to be removing some of that the understory vegetation that we talked about, such as the buckthorn and honeysuckle, we take a look at the plan. Does it kind of indicate that some of that is going to be, restored to native vegetation as opposed to, all being turf? So I just was trying to get a better sense. Do we know how much is turf versus how much is going to be, either some type of small woody shrubs or herbaceous vegetation that we potentially talked about initially? And I understand it depends on the design of the park as a whole. But.
Oh, hold on, I can pull that up quickly. I want to get the most recent one.
On that plant list that we were just looking at, item number 6 was also incorrect. The cultivar doesn't exist.
This one. Yeah. That's the removal plan. Here's the replanting plan. So I can get that for you, Chris. I mean, the replanting plan is not showing a lot in the understory that's being removed, but I think you kind of have to, or it'll just grow back.
Right.
You're going to have to do something there. Like, because if you look at the notes here.
Yeah, I guess it's just if it's buckthorn now, I'm all in favor of, you know, restoring that area to, you know, native vegetation. It just depends on what's the, you know, what is the method they're going to use, you know, are they going to grub that out, or, you know, and then what are they going to plant with?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a really, I think that's important. I mean, because I think their note clearly says clear existing shrub, which is almost entirely invasive in the shrub scrub. The trees are generally speaking fine, except there's buckthorn, but the scrubs are almost entirely invasive. And but then if you go to the planting plan, it's not showing anything in the areas that they've cleared and cleared the scrub out of. So we would want to know what the plans were for that.
Yeah, and I totally realize, you know, depending on, again, the design of the park, some of those areas probably are appropriate to have turf, and that'd be great for people to be able to approach those giant, beautiful cottonwoods. But in some other instances, it would be great if some of that could be, you know, restored back to, I think, native vegetation, either small shrubs or herbaceous vegetation, like we talked about at one point.
Yeah. Yep.
Great.
I will put that note into them because we are currently working on this for the permit, and I think Canal Corps is very supportive of all those things too. They have been.
That'll be part there.
Laura, if you're keeping track of the plant list things, please add number 6, Prunus subhirtella. They have it as some Deudula. I think what they meant is pendula, which is weeping cherry.
Yeah. Okay. Let me.
So, Laura, do you have what you need from us on this for this meeting?
Yes. I mean, so I'll tell them to fix. I wrote down those, and I'll have them go through it again. I mean,
number 13 as well.
13.
Species verticillata is spelled wrong.
Okay. But I don't like the last time we looked at it, there were invasives and things, and I think they removed all of them when I was looking at it.
It looks like they did, yes. Because the last time we were like, boom, 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 boom. There's certain things that should be on here, but I don't feel that way now. Yeah. I think you're right.
I mean, there's a lot of them. Like you're talking like 295 Virginia Sweetfire, but that's a great plant for pollinator. So
yeah, so that is part of one of the things that we've talked about, diversity, and that you can't have more than 20% of any one plant. So that's an awful lot to have of one. 592 Buxus microphylla, winter gem, that's a lot. Yeah. There could be a greater diversity here.
Laura, I have a quick question. You know, you said that we're going to be more involved with the park area, you know, when that comes around.
Mm-hmm.
What is the overall time frame? Like, where are they in this whole project as far as their timeline? Like, when is our involvement going to be more intense and things like that, so that we can at least think ahead what the plan is?
So what they want to do is get the Canal Corps permit shortly and take the heavier stuff out now while the ground is frozen, because you obviously do a lot less damage to the ground if you can take down the heavy stuff in the winter and the scrub. And then they want to, chip that up and get a sense of how they can pull those blocks out. I think pulling the blocks out of the forest is going to take a while. And so you really can't even really do anything until you get all those blocks out of the forest, get them down in the ground, figure out where they're all going to go. And then you have a concept of where these trees are going to go. which is what, the Canal Corps, we're trying to show the Canal Corps is, yeah, we're taking down some of these willows. They're old and they're losing these large stems, but, we're going to replace with like this many trees. It may even end up being more than that. But I think the final location of the trees is going to depend on a lot on when you pull those blocks out, where you can put them. And then, like, to Chris's point, like, when you clear out that understory, like, what's going to fit there? Like, how can you make it look good and inviting and beautiful as a park?
And Laura, do they have a plan for those blocks? Because those blocks are all numbered and they're very historical, that we don't want them damaged, or they pull them out and then they don't have a place to put them and they're just kind of left in
yeah, no, they have talked about them with SHPO and the Canal Corps and everyone. They're very aware of how important they are. That's part of the permit that we submitted to SHPO. We do have the SHPO improvements, but I think I showed this to you guys before. They have treatments that they want to do with the blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And they have like little, maybe it's here.
So you foresee this all happening like maybe later this year, because if they're removing the understory and some of the larger trees and things now or, soon, then most likely later this year, they're going to be looking at the planning and the more detailed things.
Yeah, I think they want to have the park be one of the first things that they get done, so that as they build the buildings, the people that start moving in already have that amenity established. It's not like they want to build Rivers Ledge and then do the park. I think they want to do the park now.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Laura, can we get a copy of what you're showing now, which
it's
a little bit more detail?
So one of the things, and if you look at this one, I can just forward you this email with all the. Well, I guess it would depend on what size attachments you guys can take. But like, do you see like these little red lines here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. These little dotted red lines.
Mm-hmm.
That's this treatment. I have got to close some stuff down on my computer. I'm really sorry, guys. That's this treatment where they are gonna build a channel and then you can walk along and see them in the ground. Flush linear blocks. Then that other plan shows you they've got some treatments, because right now it's pretty flat, so you could use some of the aqueduct stones to kind of do actually artificial retaining walls to give you some like showing places to sit and walk over. Then they have them as benches, and they have them as these small clustered I don't even know what you call those. And then yeah, like this. Okay. And then the other thing that they were thinking of doing with them is just to get them out of the forest so people can see them and touch them and they become part of the park rather than looking like part of a jungle that somebody's abandoned. Might be able to use some of them for this stairway here. You might be able to use some of them in the stairway, and anywhere that they do something really special with them, they'll put signs up of what they are, and keep track of all the numbers. And then the other place that they were thinking might be cool is that there has to be a bit of a raised area, because where the road crosses here, this is the road to go into Rivers Ledge. They do have to raise the bike path a little, and there's a bit of a retaining wall. And so they were thinking it'd be cool to bring the blocks up here and then put a little kiosk up here, so that you've got some of the aqueduct stones up here for people who, for whatever reason, don't travel all the way down to the river. You would be going up and down the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail, and you'd still be able to see the blocks and have a little kiosk that shows you that these were the aqueduct stones with what they used to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Interesting.
Good.
Yeah.
Quick clarifying question. One last question. So is this going to be a private park, or is this a town of Niskayuna park, or a county park?
Yeah, it's a town park. We have the maintenance responsibility of it. Its underlying owner is New York State, but the town is the one that maintains it. And it's 100% public at all times.
So the highway department then
maintains it.
Yeah, and they've seen this and they know what they're getting into as well.
Yeah, they
On the planting, that influence the maintenance, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be a paved pathway, Laura, that they would, plow in the winter time like they do with some of the other parts?
I mean, the highway really did not want it to be paved because they like this park as a more natural park. But Louise will pave it if we change our mind. But right now it's considered to be stone dust.
Okay.
So, Laura, you said this a minute ago, but I'm just trying to be clear. Where the Rivers Run Drive goes, how is it going to cross the bike trail? Does it go over, under, or is it just this intersection of the bike trail?
It will be at grade, and you won't even notice it really. But they will have to blend the bike trail back, and they have to do it for a long way. You can't see it in these plans. These aren't the engineered plans, but they'll say this is 2 feet higher than what it is now. You're obviously not going to do a 2-foot bump. They'll taper whatever grade they need so that this is at grade. They'll taper it back, which is why you have this retaining wall. So I think that the changes to the multi-use path start way back here. It's kind of like when you are fixing a railroad. You can't, just lift it up to whatever you want. It has to be tapered a long way because the trains need that. The same is true, actually, standard for the bike path. So they're going to go this way to it and that way to it and just gently rise it up so that where it crosses the road, it'll just be a painted crosswalk across the road. And it's not showing this on this plans either. This is on the Rivers Ledge plans. But when we did this, because it's an extra crossing to the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail, the cars yield to the bikes. So it's stop signs on either side and the bikes are allowed to continue.
I see.
So Laura, you'll send this to us so we can take a look at.
I'll just forward you this email. Yeah.
Yep. Good.
I have 2 more comments about the plant stage when we get to that stage. Some of the plants, there's an awful lot of them, right? Hundreds of them. And one of the ways to attract pollinators is that we want to have a succession of bloom. We don't want 500 things blooming for the 2 weeks of May, first 2 weeks of May, and then nothing for the second 2 weeks of May and nothing for June. So there could be a possibility that we could assist them with some suggestions of, if you've got 500 of something, could we have 100 that blooms in April, 100 that blooms in May, 100 that blooms in June. This way we're supporting pollinators in that area for a longer part of their life cycle. So that's comment 1. And comment 2 is they had something like 500 plus boxwoods. Just a couple days ago, I have to take a lot of classes to retain my certification. So I took a course sponsored by the New York State Nursery and Landscape Association. And they had an entire hour-and-a-half program on a new disease coming into our area. That's a type of Boxwood Blight. A couple of years ago, a different type of Boxwood Blight went around. This is a second type, and it really causes absolute devastation of the plant. So with that in mind, I don't know if we want to allow 500 of the boxwoods to be installed. We could make some suggestions for alternative plants in there, because if it gets into a planting, it will literally wipe out the entire planting in a very short time. So we don't want them to lose 500 plants should this pathogen get here. It's a fungal disease.
Yeah, and that's working with them because it's going to cost them a lot of money if they lose all those plants too. So we can just explain to them, we've taken this training and, that it would be a shame for them to plant 500 of something and have it all die.
Yeah.
And that's a really good way to engage with them and then be like, and by the way, you also have 500 of this one, which maybe we could diversify.
Yeah.
Just to kind of bring up and circle back around and emphasize that, I just don't know how much that town highway department takes care of beds like this. And so to have the designer coming up with like a maintenance plan or, just to give the highway department like a sense of what they're going to have to undertake. Do we have any, I guess within the town of Askew and our parks, I don't know all the parks completely, but I don't know if we have extensive flower beds like this or meadows that will need to be maintained. So then
I'm confusing you guys, but these ones, like the 500 boxwoods and the dailies and stuff, that's on Rivers Ledge, which is private.
Okay.
The parks, which is what I brought up to you from that email, that's town. And I can bring up that planting plan. right now there aren't any perennials. We talked about carving out an area maybe under the trees or when, where we could do like a pollinator demonstration garden or something. But generally speaking, that's more tree, grass, and then maybe we can, I think if you look at that, there's some rain gardens, which I'm not sure the highway department's used to managing, so we'd have to look at that. But, then like a pollinator garden. But this is the ornamental plantings that are going around the bottom of apartment buildings, which will be managed by the owner.
Great.
Well,
Thank you.
Laura?
River's Ledge. But the one that's in your packet, which has those large numbers of like daylilies and stuff like that, is privately owned. The one that I popped up on the screen when we were looking at the clearing and what's the understory is publicly owned.
Hey, Laura, a quick question. Remember when we looked at like a time or two ago, the pollinator pathway we were talking about by Kelt's Farm?
Yes.
Is that going to be maintained by the town? And if so, should we do something a little similar with River's Ledge that they, so we have little pockets where we can, like if we have lupin there and we have lupin here, then maybe, the butterflies can make it from place to place because they're not that far apart. And again, this would be River's Ledge. But I guess my question was, I'm sorry, would the highway department maintain the pollinator pathway?
In those cases, yes.
Okay.
Yes, ultimately they would. If there's a gardening association that picks it up, great, but that we typically don't rely on them because they're volunteer based and volunteers change over time.
Yeah.
So we do have to understand that things like that, worst case scenario, are maintained by the highway department. Not worst case, but if we have a gardener take them over for 2 years, great. But in the end, you would have to say, okay, we're building this with the highway department having to manage it in mind. If everything else falls through, that we're trying to figure out how to help. So yeah, so you do I think want to keep it as simple and easy to maintain as possible, so we're not overwhelming them.
So for the park,
Right, because we don't want to dump all this extra work on them either, right?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, hopefully it helps. Like if we can fill in areas that would be hard to mow, like steep slopes or wet areas or just things that are a pain in the butt, if we fill in them with low maintenance perennials, that can crowd out weeds, generally speaking, and we can just check on them. Hopefully that would actually be less work.
Right. And more environmentally friendly.
But, it's going to be a balance, and you'd still probably have to go in there and pull out weeds occasionally, or we could have volunteer days. I think, if volunteers can pull weeds every once in a while.
I was just going to suggest maybe if we could at a future meeting, then if you can send out that packet for the park and then just focus like 15 minutes on the park design and then what's going to go under those trees, because it's going to be a new park, and so it's a great opportunity to really showcase some of our great flora in the region.
Yeah,
Good thought.
Okay, should we move on to the Shannon Boulevard one? And so I wasn't able to go yesterday, but were people able to meet? And it looked like from a previous meeting minute, we were going to try to get somebody who was an expert in old growth to come also.
We were able to get the old growth expert, but it's okay because it was very snowy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty much a forest ecologist, so I can qualify as an old growth expert.
Did you all go yesterday?
I did.
I was there.
Yeah.
And how did it go?
Good, I thought.
Yeah.
Had a good turnout, and we got one. So we have recommendations on all the lots. There's a couple of things we want them to check. Like I think Chris correctly noticed that it didn't seem like the house locations for lot 1 was right. And it didn't also comply with the trees they had marked to remove. So he's going to double check that and get back to us on those. But, we had a couple notes. So I have the notes that we took, and I'm going to type them all up and send them to you guys, to the developer. And I think one of the things that we talked about is because some of the ribbons, there was all kinds of ribbons. There were survey ribbons, taking out ribbons, there's a couple things. Andre and I decided that one of the things we'll request is notification, like maybe 2 days prior to actual tree clearing, so that we can go out and make sure that all the survey ribbons are pulled at that point and there aren't any oopses.
Thank you so much. 14 times, thank you. Because I have personally seen that happen on more than one occasion. And once you go, whoops, you can't put the tree back. So.
And they're gorgeous trees, and we don't want that to happen. Like, Kristen, do you think that the ones on the steep slopes, those huge oaks on the steep slopes, that's what looked old growth to me?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, trees that, potentially are old trees are potentially slightly different than what you would consider like old growth forest, right? So I think that there's kind of like two potential kind of definitions there. I mean, certainly the area most likely has had some types of logging and agriculture in the past, but it appears that some of those older trees potentially were retained. I mean, those oaks are magnificent, and so I'm glad to see. And I guess overall, I think, my impression was that it was like some of the flagging was kind of unclear, and then it was kind of like, well, it did seem a little bit odd that house, like you had mentioned, Laura, and I'm glad that we caught that, the setback from the town open space border, because I just hope to, it's town open space, so we don't want to. But I think overall it was really good, and it potentially could be used as maybe like a model for the future, or, I just thought it was great that there's a nice, like, he's donating that set aside and open space to allow access. And so there's a lot of, in general, it appears there's a lot of good forest retention and tree retention at that development site. That was my impression. I was kind of almost like, are you sure there's not going to be more? Like, I thought there should be more trees cut. I just where are these people's lawn going to be? And that's where I was a little confused by the footprint of the house versus the clearing limits. And so, like, people are not going to want, maybe they will, and they'll want a forested lot, but those are forested lots, right?
And Chris, that was a good catch on the setback. That was a good visualization, mathematically looking at the plan for you to notice that.
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, that was one of my concerns. Yeah, just so I guess that's what, where is the clearing limit versus those retention trees? But
yeah, that was not clear at all where
right
lawn was versus
how does that work, Laura? Like the difference between the trees that are being retained versus the clearing limit. It's like our understanding that the trees that are marked are the ones that are going to be cleared, and that's it, right?
That is it. We have had this problem, like it did happen on Vincenzo. Like we said, here's the clearing limits. We're okay with the clearing limits. The person lived at the house for a year and then wanted a bigger yard. And there isn't really a whole lot we can do except communicate and try and educate about the values of the forest. But I agree with you. It did seem like there was a low number of trees marked, and that the reality of it is when they get in there, they may have to take out more just to be able to get around the edges of the foundation. But they have to, when they build those houses and they do the grading, they do have to make a decent amount of area flat just for the basic construction. And so that will end up being the initial yard. And then hopefully, because this forest is so special and unique and these people are buying a lot that has trees, they would want to maintain that. But, it is something that we've talked about, like trying to have people be proud of the trees that they have in your yard, like submit them to us as, maybe the biggest or the tallest or the most beautiful or the funniest looking, so that people are incentivized and do appreciate keeping those bits of forest in their backyard or the special trees that they have in their front yard or whatever. Because we really don't, it is private property, and it, at some point people can clear cut them to make these yards. It's, fresh
people don't like to mow.
It's all kinds of things. And when property changes hands, that's why I think it is important like you said, that open space is owned by the town, and we're delineating it with a split rail fence, so that will stay. The other stuff we can try as much as we can to make it look attractive, so that when you go to building permit and when they go to build, it incorporates nicely into the lot to the best that we can. And then I'd say hope that the trees stay as long as we can keep them.
And I would just say, I think that, there are a handful of trees that are like, there would be no debate that there are trees of significance. Like some of the oaks were just massive, what I mean?
Yeah.
30, 40 inches in diameter. So that's good.
Yeah. And like that one between lot 4 and 3.
Right.
That is kind of in the middle, but if you leave that and you grade around it and you do your best not to compress that guy's roots and stuff, like that'll look fantastic in a yard.
Yeah.
And I don't know at what point people come to say, I want a house here. You know what I mean? I don't know how are they going to say, I like your plan, I'll take the house, and they're not looking at that kind of stuff. They're just saying it. But it would seem like, or are they going to be built and raised and trees are going to be cut down before the people buy it? You see what I'm saying?
So this project has one developer, Joel, you met him. Yeah. I had sent you that email because he sold 3 lots to a single family. Right now, it's under contract to a family, 2 brothers and 1 sister.
Oh, no kidding.
And he's actually gone out there to meet with them so that they understand the trees, because at the planning board level, this is constantly being referred to you guys. Because at the planning board level, there was a ton of public comment about the trees, a ton, hours. And he was trying to impress upon them the trees, and we know who the owners are going to be, and we're trying to work with them on building permits as they go forward to be respectful to what the planning board approved and what the tree council is out there looking at. So we know the first owners, and the potential first owners did understand what the context of the subdivision is. That doesn't mean 20 years from now there's not going to be changes in the property. But
right. It's too bad there isn't some sort of incentive we can give them for keeping the trees. And I don't know how you'd do that, but when they're trees of that significance. So,
I mean, it's a thought. Like, I know Conservation Advisory Council was looking at the town of Bethlehem. I know we're going a little late, but sorry. The Conservation Advisory Council is looking at the town of Bethlehem that does an incentive for keeping your land undeveloped. And so, like, you may be able to take that and it's tax, which sometimes towns don't like. But, there may be some kind of incentive, if not tax, but something, or maybe very similar, very small. But even if it's a very small thing, people still like that.
And give them recognition.
On the other hand, they're buying a house that's abutting a big swath of land that's never going to be cut, hopefully. So I mean, it's like they have to be tree lovers at some level. That they're going to be looking out their kitchen window and seeing a lot of trees.
So, Laura, is there anything else you need from us on the Shannon Boulevard?
No, that was just on there as an update for the walkabout, and I'll send out the notes. And again, we would probably do another site walkabout just because the confusion of the ribbons and just making sure that those house corners were kind of correctly staked out there. And so we had talked about he needs to resubmit a street tree plan, which he's going to work about, and then we would probably work with the new owners on a mitigation plan for some of the trees of values that would be taken down because of the houses. So those are the next 2 steps on that one.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay, so the next one is the street tree master plan.
Yeah, I'm not taking it off the agenda, and I'm sorry, but I still haven't organized a meeting. And I will have that done by March, I promise. But what I was thinking is we could kind of file out the subcommittees, and then we'd have some new names when we're organizing the master plan meeting. I did want to let you guys know that, and that's why I had the committee reports in italic, because I don't think we should do them. I think we should just kind of like maybe reorganize the subcommittees to the best of our ability.
I think what we had talked about is that, right, Laura, that Carol, you and myself and Andrea were going to try to meet and then try to synthesize what work needs to be done so that we can get back to the contractor. so that take some chunks, and then we'll be kind of be able to kind of be responsive and kind of wrap that up, and then kind of come back to the committee, I think, is what we also have to do, and discuss some of the key points centered on like goals and vision.
Yeah, and Chris, I read the plan, and I had just I was thinking offline, you and I could just talk sometime, just so I can understand it a little bit better. So
sure. That'd be great.
Okay.
If you want, yeah. So, yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll try to. If you want, I can shoot you an email. You can shoot me an email on the.
Yeah, I'll send you an email in a day or two, and you're probably more. I'm probably freer than you are, so we'll figure out a time that's good for you. So
great. That'd be great. Thanks.
Okay. So then we're going to put that on hold right now, Laura, and move on to our subcommittees, because we do have 3 subcommittees, and we don't have. Our numbers have dwindled on our council, so we may have to be on more than one subcommittee, although we're getting 2 new members coming in March, so that'll help.
Yeah, and I asked the new members which committee they wanted to be on, and Daryl said he would like to be on public outreach and tree planting if possible, and Amy said public outreach.
Okay.
Cool.
The other Amy, we're gonna have 2 Amy's.
Okay. Oh, Amy 1 and Amy 2. And I guess you can put me on the tree master plan for now, since I'm kind of helping. We'll be helping with that for a little bit. So.
Okay, so for public outreach,
That's
Amanda,
good.
do you still want to be on public outreach?
Who?
Amanda?
Yeah. Yeah,
Good.
I've been
Right now, there's only 2 of us. It's only on public outreach.
Yeah, so then it would be Amanda, Carol, Amy, Lamina, and Daryl. So that would be
That's good.
a good amount of people. And then tree planting is
Me
Amy
and Paul.
And Paul.
and I think that's and now Daryl went to be on that one.
Andrea, are you on that? Are you on tree?
Melissa used to be on. We lost her.
Okay.
I'd be happy to be on the tree planting.
Great, thank you.
And
So it's
then-
Andrea, me, Paul, and Daryl. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
And then the master plan one. That was the one where I think Chris is the only one that was because that was you, Steve, and Melissa.
Well, Andrea's on that. I thought you were on that committee too.
Oh yeah, and Andrea. Yeah, okay.
So I think if Andrea,
And now Chris, Andrea, Carol.
and I think that's fine at this point. Like I think that at least what I'm trying to do is like we just need to focus in and get this plan. Like I'm just laser focused on just that one task, and
Okay.
not to like. And then if we can, I think our second task is trying to look for that grant funding once the
We need
urban
that.
get the whole street tree inventory done.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good. That will fill us out. Oh, Jonathan.
You're muted, Jonathan.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. I was wondering why you're ignoring me.
I
was suggesting that I could do public outreach or a tree planting. I don't have the tree expertise to be that helpful in the inventory one, but I'm willing to really help out in either the other 2.
Great.
Do you have a preference, or would you want to be on both?
I guess my preference would be public outreach.
That
Okay.
would need
I like planting trees, so trees are good. I love trees.
Okay.
Yeah, we need that on a
Those are
shirt.
fun things.
Trees are good. I love trees.
Yeah, right.
And I think like Arbor Day and Niska Day and Community Action, it's kind of like where we show our stuff, It's like to the town, Otherwise, we're kind of not quite visible.
Mhm.
One thing that we did talk about, which would be great for the tree master plan, and this overlaps with the outreach, but would be to have some type of open public comment period. I don't know if we want to call it a couple. I don't want to invite that, but just like an open house to talk about the plan and just. So it would almost have to be maybe next fall sometime, possibly, if that is doable to have public type events then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's
That's the key.
Yeah.
Maybe we could do a web-based, I don't know. Maybe there's something there. I'm just trying to think that there would be great to be able to get that out there so that people know, just get a better sense the fact of what the street trees are,
Yeah, and Chris, I was looking at some other street tree plans from other cities, and they had some informational meetings for the community, which makes sense. So I think when we get to that point, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate the budget is I guess just from what you're indicating is so tight, Laura, that we really don't have any flexibility with our contractor, because ideally it would be great if they could coordinate those meetings and run those meetings as opposed to us, but.
well, we can ask. The contractor has also said, I can help you more if you can give me a bigger budget. I mean, we can ask, but they halved our miscellaneous for 2021. Got halved. So.
Okay.
I think we can do it.
I think we can too, but
Yeah.
we
We
know
know about this town. We know what
We
to
got
do.
the
The thing
talent.
about having a facilitator is that, like, when there's somebody who's grumpy, it's not like us that need to,
Right.
talk to them. The facilitator can then
Right.
address that. So maybe if somebody knows
point.
the
I know
facilitator,
facilitators that they obviously they're not tree experts, but they know how to facilitate meetings at GE and stuff that maybe I could talk them into.
that'd be cool.
Good point. Good point.
that'd be super.
That would be
And-
cool.
You don't
Yeah,
have to
that's
know
a
the
good
topic.
idea.
You just have to be a good facilitator.
Exactly. That's all
Right.
I would say, is so that they can run the meeting, we can present our piece, maybe the contractor will come, and then we can get feedback, and everybody's happy.
Mhm. Somebody at GR Research Center, I can. Okay,
This could be. I do prefer live stuff now. I'm sad that we can't do some in-person things, because there are some things that we miss. But it could be, it could be a Zoom thing. A lot of towns are doing that. And before we started this meeting, I was talking about, an event that the Dance Flurry in Saratoga, where the whole thing has gone on Zoom, and they're having classes. We could do presentations about what our vision is for the master plan. It may not be ideal, but it's doable.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Okay, so to try to kind of keep we're on track here. Why don't we quickly do reports? I wanted to just bring up public outreach quickly, because as to what we're going to do about Arbor Day this year. Do we feel it's going to be a drive-by again, or can we?
Remember, don't call it drive-by.
Okay.
Negative. Drive through.
Drive through. And also Laura, I think I sent you, we can already start to order the trees. They've opened it up early this year. So I think we should get our order in early to get the best possible selection. So what are people's thoughts, or what can we do, Laura, this year? Do you know?
So yeah, we can definitely order. We ran out of trees last year, but
Yeah.
I don't know that we would have been really, really close if we had gotten the lilacs. Remember, the lilacs didn't come in because they just, like, COVID shut that nursery down. So we were like 10 or 20 short of what we ordered. And we were about 10 or 20 cars short of plants.
But a lot
like
turned
lilac.
around and didn't even come. I had friends who
I heard that
didn't
too when
know
they saw the line. So, and we had 200 last year. I think there's complete support for us budget-wise to do, even if we wanted to do 300 or 400. I don't know where you guys' level is or what we think, but the ordering of the trees is very supported by the town board. It's a very liked event in town, and it was definitely, I think, a huge pick-me-up. in COVID. It's for spring last year. So there's definitely support for us to order the trees. I think we should probably just game plan. We've increased the order every year, and every year it's been good. We've hardly had any left over. So I think the first year we had the most left over. And ever since then, we've had very few left over.
Do you think we're going to have to do the drive-through probably by April?
Probably.
So,
Yeah.
nobody's saying having any
We won't all be
expectation.
vaccinated by then. And
Yeah.
But what we were saying is that we could potentially do the drive-through at River Road Park because the cars can stack for much longer.
yeah.
Stay on the circle, and you could have a ton of cars in there, and hopefully we wouldn't cause any traffic problems because we.
But I think that even that's not long enough. I mean, they were backed up from the town hall past the intersection at Van Antwerp,
Wow.
which I think is longer than.
No, they went over onto. I got yelled at by the police.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Is there some
Long
way?
enough.
Is there some way to do a staged timing?
That's what I was just thinking.
And I'm
We can
just
do it-
throwing this out. You know, like when you vote, you go, if you're A to H, you go to this table. Like, so
Right.
there's some way to kind of do this. The people who live on these streets come at this time. If you live on these streets, you come at this time. Is there
Or we
some
have
way?
3 locations, which would be harder for us to man. I'm just trying to think of options where we had a big bottleneck last year. And so
Yeah.
I assume this happens on a Saturday or Sunday.
it was
Saturday.
a Saturday morning.
Could we do the high schools? Much bigger parking lot, much more room.
Oh,
That's an interesting idea.
yeah.
What about also the park at the swimming pool? You know, I know that's not like the core of the town, but I forget what that park's called. Where the
Oh yeah.
The Girling Center.
You could back the cars up on Banker Ave for almost the entirety of Banker Ave, and that wouldn't be as much of a traffic issue as Van Antwerp. I think the big problem was that it was spilling off onto Van Antwerp.
Right.
Right.
you don't want the traffic to spill out on the River Road either. I guess that would
Well,
be
exactly.
Right.
Road being probably just as big, or if not bigger deal than Van Antwerp, but Banker.
Yeah.
the high school would work too. I don't know who would be somebody who to ask about that. Is there somebody within the town of Niskayuna Police Department that would help with? They could, because they got to think about traffic for other events and.
Right.
I can ask that police chief, and then also we have a couple of town board members that are also on the. Oh, we have a couple people who have very close connections to the school board to see if they would let us use their space.
There might be a club or something like that. That might be an environmental group or Earth Save the
Good
Earth
point.
group or something like that that could be coming out and helping us.
Well, and Chris, would you had the Girl Scouts help or the
Navigator.
Navigator.
The Navigators.
Are no longer existing, so
Oh,
Navigators folded. But that was remember that was 3 or 4 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
Really good helpers, though.
they were
well,
good.
they were.
Remember how cold it was?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bitter.
Bitter.
Freezing.
Well, next meeting we'll have the high school student with us to hear, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they can get some volunteers.
I bet they can.
Yeah.
We can also divide the tree giveaways in half and give half away at 10 and the other half at 12.
Mhm.
Something like that too.
So if
Everybody-
somebody drives by and it's a long line, they'll go away and come back for the second pickup.
Yeah, but we'll have to save half because you remember we
Right.
had to open 15, 20 minutes early because the people had already gotten in line way before the start time.
Yes.
And it was starting
That's
to
why I
build
said
up to
split
bad.
them in half and hold the second half until
Yeah.
the next time.
Yeah.
It was
I like
confusing
that.
too because there was this other event going on at the front of the town hall, and so it was confusing. Did they come for that or did they come for the plant?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some lessons learned that we can work I think we can work through all that, and the public outreach committee can
Okay.
all of that and come through it. But I think to answer your question, Carol, we definitely have the budget. I think if you guys want to ballpark the number, like maybe 350.
Okay, yeah. And Amanda, you want to, get together, and Amy, were you on public outreach? We'll send out the list and we'll pick. And I remember the smaller trees. Oh, the other Amy.
The other Amy.
The smaller trees were the ones that were more popular. The lilacs.
Sure.
Yeah. So
which makes sense because a lot of people have the bigger ones already, so they're trying to fill in spaces.
Okay, so we'll do that.
Mhm.
I'll look up the date. It's usually that last Saturday in April. The one other thing I wanted to mention on the public outreach, I went on to our website and it says error. So I don't know if something happened when Steve moved, but I can't get on the website anymore. That website isn't there.
Oh,
that's
man, I checked that not that long ago and it was working. I would say like 3 weeks ago it was probably working.
Really? Because I checked it this afternoon before the meeting just to I was going to see if I could make an update and I couldn't get on. So I'll check again, but if not, I'm not sure what to do. So
I think we have to email Steve on that because I'm still paying for it.
Okay.
It should be working.
Okay, I will check again and email Steve and copy you if I can't get it going.
Yeah, I just tried it. It's not working on my computer either, and it did work the week or two before when I was looking at what was on our website.
Okay. So I think that was all on the public outreach. How about the tree inventory and tree master plan? Anything more to add?
I think we pretty much covered it, and I thought that was the discussion. So
okay.
That one, yeah.
Okay, sounds. And then what about tree planting?
So, Laura, do you want to do those things, or do you want me to try bringing them up?
Either way is fine with me. Do you want to do it?
I will attempt and see if I listened well to my teacher. Click. And then here.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then here. Can everyone see Niskayuna tree site planning checklist? Great.
Yes.
So we had chatted before about, hey, can there be some checklist that developers and planners would use to make sure, like at River's Ledge, that they've kind of done everything that we expect them to do. So this was me brainstorming. This is super rough draft. Could you please read this over, take a look at it, see if I've missed anything, see if there's any corrections, is the tone correct, et cetera, et cetera.
Amy, I looked at it. I have one quick little suggestion.
Yes, please.
So it's on the list down below with the bullet points.
Yes.
Every bullet point just about starts with council members can. You can take those off the bullet points and just end that sentence at the top. The Niskayuna Tree Council can provide help with your project, and then just have council members can.
I did start that way, and then it ended up that point 3 also includes the highway department, and then
you can work with the highway department staff to recommend.
Okay, thank you. I will fix that. So that's take off council members.
I took a quick look at it, Amy, and I thought it looked great. So I can go back over it. I think that once you get it kind of ironed out, maybe just trying to figure out how to format it to give it a little bit more space, so that you can use it in the field. But, overall, I thought it was great.
And I'm assuming, of course, thank you, that, this has to go on official letterhead. And so this would, I think, would it turn over to you, Linda, and you would do the kind of putting it on the Niskayuna formatting procedure?
Well, you're on mute, Linda.
Yes, I'll make it. Give me whatever you want and I'll make it to what people want it to look like.
Great. Thank you so much. And if anybody else has comments that you see later, or you think about later, feel free to call me or email me.
Okay. I took a quick look and thought it was good. And we're going to change it to what we had talked about, prohibited tree and plants or whatever.
Thank you. I will do that. So I will change title to official name.
Yeah. Okay.
Change title to official name. Is everyone okay if I move on to the second document?
Mhm.
Sure.
All right. So again, super rough draft. Last time I showed you some different options for visually presenting our recommended tree list, master list. And you gave me some good feedback, and then I tried to use that feedback to create the document. This first part may need, or something like this, may need to be the first page of our binder, just so that people understand how to use the information in the binder. And this will change depending on the final formatting. The way that I have it now with each row of plants was meant for the first option that we tried, and I'll show you that as we go. So if you could take a minute, read through this, and this is just general, give me some feedback on this explanation page.
I thought it was excellent.
Thank you.
Very good. Really nice.
Thank you. And let me know when you're ready to move on to the next page.
You want a thumbs up, or how do you want it?
Oh, I can't see any of y'all, so
Oh, sorry.
sorry.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm
I
good.
will,
Go ahead.
thank you. I will slide down a little bit. So this would be theoretically the first page of the binder. Again, Linda probably doing all the formatting on our official letterhead. And then this is the way, one of the ways that I proposed
Oh, yeah.
last week. This is what I use when I'm working with clients. I can fit 2 of these rows on one page. There were positive and negative comments about this. The worst negative thing is that it just takes up a lot of space, right? And we didn't need a binder 3 inches thick for the highway guys to have to lug around when they go over to the nursery to buy stuff. The pro with this way is it gives a lot of good descriptive pictures. So you can really get a sense of, why do we like this tree? Yeah, so it's got yellow fall leaves. Well, a lot of things do. So what makes this unusual? So we decided not to use this because it would take up too much space, because we have a lot of trees on the recommended tree list.
That's true.
So then it was suggested that I do it a little bit more chart-like. All right, so I started kind of fooling around with this, and noticed that there would be really, imagine that picture's not there for a second. You see, it could be a lot of compressed data, right? I can fit a whole bunch in a small area, because every single row going across would be a different tree. And if we just have the titles at the top for these columns, we can get a lot of quick info. And they can also search through this by saying, I want fall leaf color that's red. And then you just run your finger down, yellow, yellow, yellow. Oh, here's one that's red. So it's an easier way to find info. The problem with it is physically on the paper, and notice, by the way, I've already used landscape format, not portrait format. So I'm already stretched out as far as I can stretch out. This way doesn't allow me a lot of space for pictures. I tried to put the picture to the right of the chart, but I just don't have any other space. And then I said, well, do we need all these columns? Well, yeah, it's stuff that we've talked about. Why would a person want a specific tree? Because of the flowers, because of the fall leaf color. We wanted to let people know if it attracts pollinators. That's part of our long-term goal. Is it deer resistant? We have an issue here in town with that. Highway people and homeowners want to know if there's any debris. Oh, I don't want acorns falling in my yard. And we've talked about natives. So I felt like I couldn't erase any of the columns. So it left me no space for the tree on the right-hand side of the chart. So then I put the tree inside where you see it now, other info. I put the picture in there, and it just takes up too much space vertically. And we're back to that same issue of taking up too much space vertically. So then the next one I tried is this format. I kind of combined the 2 ideas. So I used a chart format with these little small columns, and each time it will be in the same order. So scientific name, common name, size, how much sun it needs, what are the flowers like, what's the fall leaf color, does it attract pollinators, is it deer resistant, and then the next one is debris, is it native, and then final comments, some different notes, some reasons why you may want the plant. And I've way reduced the pictures. So, a person could get an overall feeling of the attributes of the tree. Also, the guys going to buy the tree, or the gals, people from the highway department, physically going over to the nurseries to buy the tree, could still use it as a reference. Do I have the right one? Or I don't want to buy a maple today. What else could I buy? And use these as a reference for identifying the tree. So I think so far, this is my favorite format based on what you have recommended and what was physically possible. So let me know your feelings on this. Now, this way, with 3 on a page, we've way reduced the thickness of the binder.
I like that, Amy.
I like it a lot, Amy. I was thinking too, it would be, helpful to have and maybe we can work on this as part of the tree master plan, but, maybe have some of the, on the first page, you might have some explanations, but then some goals centered around, like we talked about, diversification, just some general goals to think about as part of the binder. And then 2, we discussed at one point, what % do we want planted native versus non-native? I don't know what that percentage is. And again, the diversity metric too, we should discuss that more. I think it's great to strive for 20%, but can we hit that? I don't know. But so those are maybe some good things to put up front. But, I don't want to hold up this. This is great though. And I like that you included just, so many great information here. And then the fact that it's native or non-native is helpful as well.
Okay, thank you. I've noted those 2 things, kind of a page at the beginning that talks about general tree choice or tree selection goals or methodologies. Is it native versus non-native? Is it diverse? Is it how do we kind of use this binder to meet our goals with our tree selection?
That's going to be so
Do you have
useful.
an idea how many trees are going to be in this binder? How many entries will be in here?
That's a great question. And earlier today, I knew you were going to ask. So I tried to tally that up, but I don't know right now because it's going to be less than before and yet at the same time more than before. And I know that sounds stupid, but if we don't have to list every single cultivar, then it's going to be less, right? But there were things missing from that list that are available that we can, beautiful, wonderful trees that we can add. So it's going to be more. So probably around the same number, but just a different way of representing them.
And what was that number, Amy, about?
It was front side, back side, front side. So 3 pages of good trees. Half a page, if I'm remembering correctly, we can double check this. Half a page of bad perennials and a page of bad trees. And notice the air quotes because nothing is really bad or good. So I think I'm not describing this well, but I think overall in the end, by using this method, I can reduce the binder that I had started out with being 6 inches tall, to now being a 3-ring binder that's 1.5 inches on the back. That's what I'm hoping.
Okay.
1.5 inches, wide.
So in terms of what ones that you talked about having ones that are not appropriate, that or not natives, why are we showing them those if that's not what we want to plant them to choose to plant?
I think that list wouldn't necessarily have pictures. That list is a list of invasive plants that New York State invasives that New York State doesn't recommend, and also that we don't recommend or allow in town.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Section, and 2, tell me that, this might be helpful, but I just figured I'd throw it out there. Under your tree heights, I think that's helpful, the detailed information. I wonder, would it be helpful just to have just categorize them, add small tree, big trees, so then it's easy for them to just see like, okay, this is a small tree, as opposed to, okay, well, I'm in Old Niskiuna and we want a canopy tree here,
Yes.
So
So
then-
to answer that question, we had talked at one point, Chris, about subcategories. So here's all the trees that we can use. And
Right.
then we would have another tab in the binder. That tab will say flowering trees. And now here from our master list, here's all the things that are flowering. And then another tab, shade trees. Here's all the trees that you can select very quickly. They're all in our master list. But here they are in a subcategory. And one specifically that they asked us for was, what can we use to substitute for all the sycamores and the silver maples that are having to come down. So here's a list of trees that have that same kind of characteristic. And yeah, they're all in our recommended list, and you could take time to search through there, but here's a quick list of 5 of them. So I think that
That's a good idea.
if you are okay with that,
Good
would
sales.
that handle what you're asking?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Mhm.
I think
Okay.
that you're just saying, right. Yeah. So I think that would be a great way to.
Sounds very attractive.
I think last time we talked about maybe we're going to get this on a web page, right, or something like that.
So
Because
the ultimate goal is to have it in a binder for the highway guys,
right,
in a binder somewhere, and it's not just one binder. There could be more copies. Another binder that can be used even by us or by planning department or whoever needs to use it, that they can show it to planners, developers, customers who are in a cul-de-sac who now have to pick 2 trees to meet town code, and then all that information also on the website so that residents can quickly go there and use it for trees in their own yard.
yeah. I was just thinking that it's cannot possible to make all the tab combinations you might want, but someone might say, I want to find a deer-resistant pollinating tree, and if it's on a website, you can just do searches for those things. You can have some sort of search mechanism that gets all the trees that fit the categories you're looking for.
Okay, sure. Yes.
Mhm.
Right, because they may have more than one stipulation. They want a tree that tolerates wet sites and is a shade tree and is deer resistant.
Right.
Right.
Hmm.
Now, in my own work, I have a huge Excel file that I've been building that is attempting to do that. And I'm sorry that I started that project myself because, literally it's got 40 columns, right? Because you want to be able to, I want to be able to separate by any single attribute. I have it separated bark color because you use that visually, right? So, and it's gotten so unwieldy. I don't know if I can complete the task. Yeah.
This is great though.
Look, that's great, Amy. It looks wonderful.
Thank you.
Anything else from
So-
your sub?
Those are my updates. And then based on what you've said today, I will continue to consolidate this information for us.
Okay. So I think that's it. Thanks. I know we ran a little long tonight, but I think we covered a lot of good topics. So with that, if somebody wants to, do we have anything else to cover? Otherwise, somebody can make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Anyone want a second? Okay. And we're all in favor of calling it a night?
I
Aye.
All right, everyone.
Okay. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, everyone, for your helpful comments. I appreciate it.
Talk to you all soon.
Bye.